Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video. So this video is about about the karma of Rahu in all the in all the 12 houses. Okay, and I've been getting a lot of requests from people to know what Rahu actually represents in in different houses of the horoscope. And if you want to know about Rahu and Ketu in details as to what they do in each house and how what karma you have to do regarding them, then please join the Kalasarpa course that is going on, okay, every Saturday from 8 o'clock. Okay, it's 100% free. Please, I've put the link to join the WhatsApp group in the chat box. Please join that course and you'll get a very detailed analysis of what Rahu and Ketu are doing in your chart. Okay, but then for today's video, I want to share the karma of Rahu in all the 12 signs, all the 12 houses. Okay, and in Vedic astrology, I always say this in my classes, that in Vedic astrology, houses are considered more important as compared to signs. Okay, now the influence of Rahu on the fate or the destiny of a person and the manifestation of his or her energies in the natal chart has always been the focal point of attraction of of Vedic astrology practitioners. And this topic is always very, very relevant, very, very interesting. And as I said, this video is about trying to understand the manifestations of Rahu in the houses of the horoscope. Okay, now first of all, a clarification on the issue of the influence of planets. Okay, so we always use this word called influence, all right, but then as a Vedic astrologer who has been studying astrology since the last decade, I can say with confidence that planets by and large, they do not affect anything. Okay, and your fate do not depend on the planets. Okay, the planets, rather than influencers, they act as significators, okay, indicators of manifested karma in this human life. Okay, whatever we consider in our natal chart in a positive or negative way, all these are indicators. Okay, how events will unfold in a person's life, what events he or she will have to go through, and what he or she will face, so that karma, which is of course a consequence of actions in past incarnations, can fully be realized in the form of lessons and exams for the soul. Okay, so this is the reason why I want you not to perceive the various positions of Rahu and Ketu in the horoscope in the natal chart as as okay, Rahu is responsible for everything, Ketu is responsible for everything, or for that matter Saturn is responsible for everything. Okay, I want you to shed that view away completely. All right, I want you to view this from a slightly different perspective. Okay, for example, it would be more correct to say, Rahu demonstrates my karmic problems and helps me to recognize them being in a given position of my horoscope. Okay, so it makes a huge difference. Okay, the first statement that Rahu, Rahu, I blame Rahu for everything. And the second statement that Rahu is in my third house because I have a specific problem related to the third house. Okay, so it makes a huge difference. And this difference is about bringing a change in your perspective. Okay, so, taking the second perspective in question, we can begin to study our destiny, our karmic lessons, okay, and apply this approach not only to the interpretation of Rahu, but to the interpretation of all the planets. Okay, now Rahu is considered an asura by Parashara, and it is undeniably demonic planet, shadow planet. Okay, and despite the fact that in the starry sky, in the usual way, will not be able to detect Rahu, it can show more influence in our destiny than other planets. Okay, Rahu is a node of the moon. Okay, so you'll not see this planet in the starry sky. Okay, so possessing a somewhat usual nature, the nature of destruction and expansion, the position of Rahu in the horoscope makes it possible for us to realize the causes of our own suffering, the problems that we face in life, and also to navigate ways to solve those problems. Okay, and everything is quite simple. All right, you don't have to know complex astrological jargons, okay, to understand Rahu. It's only that you need to know where Rahu is located in the natal chart. All right, and Rahu is a sarpa or snake, and we can see him wrapping around the neck of Lord Shiva. So Rahu is also the one who represents all kinds of poisons and intoxicating substances. And it is this poisonous nature of Rahu that can destroy everything that he comes into contact with the horoscope. Okay. Now, Rahu traditionally is said to aspect the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th from its natal position. Okay, so these aspects of Rahu, they also have a poisonous effect on the houses and planets that fall under his drishti. Okay, how do those poisonous effects manifest? The houses can weaken in their karaka, they can lose energy, and planets can be really, really depleted under the influence of Rahu and harm the owner of the house. That means the ruling planet of the house with their impotence or the manifestation of their negative sides. Okay. Now, what about the house where Rahu is placed? It is the place of human strength. It is the place where you need to show courage, where you need to show perseverance, where you need to have a strong faith in yourself and your strength. And, this faith in your strengths, this faith in your courage can help you to develop in your spiritual aspect unlimitedly, because Rahu is one of the karakas for spirituality along with Saturn. Okay. And this is the reason why, Rahu influences our destiny in such a huge way. Okay. The house where Rahu is stored in this incarnation in our horoscope is the place of our growth and development. Okay. And we know that development occurs only through overcoming obstacles and weaknesses. Yes. So the house where Rahu is located can be filled with limitless possibilities, okay, and insatiable appetite. And this is also the area of life where your expansion will occur. Okay. Now, Rahu represents the jungle and Ketu represents the castle. Okay. So it can sometimes happen that this house of Rahu gets completely closed for a person in life because, as people were afraid to venture into the jungle. So the house where Rahu is located is your jungle. Okay. And if you don't show courage, you'll not even want to think about trying to head into this jungle. Okay. But if you don't, then you'll not be able to overcome yourself, your weaknesses and fears. Okay. And there is nothing critical in this. Absolutely. Okay. There is nothing critical in this. But then if you don't venture into the jungle, you will doom yourself to the repeated repetition of the same scenarios in your life. And this will completely stop your internal growth. Okay. I agree. Yes, I agree that it is sometimes insulting and boring to, to venture into the jungle. Maybe you will end up, hurting yourself. Maybe you will end up facing your demons. But then it is more insulting and boring to do the same thing over and over again, hundreds of times. Because if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get different results, then that is the definition of insanity, right? Now, the aspects of Rahu, as well as his presence in the house, okay, they share the areas of life with which a person comes into contact. Okay, for example, if Rahu is aspecting the 5th house, it can lead to separation with children in views, in opinions, and also in general in life. Okay. Similarly, an aspect of Rahu on the 7th house can lead to separation with a spouse, can lead to separation from your partners. An influence of Rahu on the 10th house can give separation from a father or guru. Okay, maybe your father lives in another country. Maybe your guru does not, you don't have access to a guru. Or maybe for other karmic reasons, you are separated from your father and guru. Okay. So, read the aspects of Rahu like that. Okay. It separates you from a signification of the house, which is getting aspected. All right. Now, Rahu is very auspicious when aspected by a benefic planet, particularly Jupiter. okay, or particularly Venus, because these are the gurus. And these grahas, they can control Rahu. And when I say control Rahu, it means they can restrain its negative impact on, on your life. Okay. As I said, traditionally, Rahu aspects the 5th, 7th, and 11th, and the 9th house from its, from its location. And people, in general, people say that Rahu gives favorable results in the sign of Taurus. Okay, but in my opinion, Rahu also gives very favorable results in the sign of Virgo. Okay, that is where Rahu receives the greatest strength. Okay, Rahu will be the most difficult to manifest himself in the sign of Scorpio, as well as the 8th house of the horoscope. Okay, so if you have Rahu in the 8th house of the horoscope, be very careful from fire, be very careful from accidents. Okay, now, all things said and done about Rahu, let's understand the, the karma of Rahu, what Rahu wants you to do, given his location in the 12 houses of the horoscope. So if Rahu is in the 1st house, you have to get rid of pride from, excessive concentration on yourself. That means you have to focus your attention away from yourself to others. Okay. And then the other karma is to get rid of fear of loneliness and attachment to a partner. Okay. If Rahu is in the 2nd house, you have to, be truthful. You have to follow up. There has to be a coherence between what you say and what you do. And, you have to ensure that you don't get intoxicated. You don't use drugs or alcohol for intoxication. Okay. In the 2nd house, the karma of Rahu also is to get rid of attachment to money. Okay. If Rahu is in the 3rd house, you have to develop willpower, you have to develop energy, you have to develop leadership. And the other karma is also to develop skills in communications, writing and creativity. If Rahu is in the 4th house, you have to work with your emotions to find satisfaction in life. You also have to work, through the tough relationship you may share with your biological mother or with your foster mother. Okay. If Rahu is in the 5th house, you have to develop intellect. You have to learn spiritual aspects. You have to learn wisdom. You have to learn mantras, because Rahu is the Karaka for mantras. And if Rahu is in the 5th house, try to be a teacher to students. Okay. Try to have children, as many children as possible. All right. Nowadays, there is a concept of having only one child, but you look at people outside India, they try to have many children. And, those trying to have many children will often have Rahu in the 5th. Okay. Rahu in the 6th, you have to spend time in nature. You have to avoid intoxication of the body. And you also have to monitor your health and learn to forgive enemies. Okay. Rahu in the 7th house, you have to learn to work in a team. Okay. You have to shed your individualistic attitude and go for a more, more social attitude. Okay. And then you also have to develop partnerships where you can accomplish tasks. Okay. Get a team, because, having a team is the fastest way you will manifest your goals. Rahu in the 8th, engage in some deep research work. And then you also have a lot of work to do to develop your sexuality and intuition. Okay. Rahu in the 9th, you have to harmonize your difficult relationships with your father. And you have to develop some kind of morality. Okay. You have to develop some kind of spirituality. You have to develop some kind of love for the divine. Rahu in the 10th, you have to take responsibility for your actions. Okay. You will end up doing things, and then, you'll shy away from taking responsibility from those things that go wrong. Okay. And you have to understand that if you do 10 things, out of those 10 things, 8 will go wrong. So you have to take responsibility for everything. And you also have to actively engage in social activities. Okay. Rahu in the 11th, you have to build and maintain relationships with other people. Okay. You have to build your network. You have to set ambitious goals and achieve them. And then Rahu in the 12th, you have to develop a certain kind of asceticism. Okay. A certain kind of detachment. And how will you develop that attachment? You have to learn not to depend on what you want. Okay. And then you have to interact with the foreign elements, maybe interact with foreigners. Okay. Maybe interact with foreign governments. And then you also have to immigrate and travel. Okay. So this is the karma of Rahu in all the 12 houses. And apart from learning the karma, you have to pay attention to how those areas that are prescribed in the form of karmic tasks according to Rahu can cause, on one hand, rejection and disagreement, and also fear to get involved with this topic. And how, at the same time, if you immerse yourself in the implementation of these tasks, you will actually become more stronger, more successful, and more fulfilled than ever before. Okay, so this is, of course, a topic for reflection. Try to see where Rahu is placed in your chart. Develop a deep awareness of the issues of the house, okay, and also the sphere that Rahu affects. Okay, so this is it from me in this video. It has been a rather long conversation. I don't do long conversations other than that in the class, but try to see if it resonates with you. Leave behind your valuable comments in the feedback section, and subscribe to the channel, like the content, and share it if you find it useful. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.